Hi, Corey. Go ahead and unmute. Are you unmuted?
I am.
Okay,
Can you hear
great.
me?
Yes, perfect.
Great.
I'm going to go ahead and let you, I've got you as co-host, right? Promote to panelist. Oh, I need to, how do I change you to,
I think I'm good. I have a share screen button.
okay, wait, I'm making you co-host. Do you want to make
Oh.
Corey, yeah, okay, yes. So then that way you can control the screen and share your presentation and call folks up for questions and answers. Okay.
I don't know if I know how to call people up, but I'll figure it out.
Oh, well, if you want me to do that, I can do that. And if I run into a problem, we'll work it out.
Okie dokie.
Okay. All righty.
It won't let me start my video yet, but I'm sure it will in the future.
Probably at 6. It might not let you till 6.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. And Bruce and Linda Becker, I'm going to can you wave at me so that I know that you could hear me? Can you raise your hand? Ah, Richard Elston can raise his hand. Thank you, Richard. How about Bruce and Linda? Oh, there you are. Okay. Bruce and Linda, can you hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me.
Bruce and Linda Becker, it's a button on the bottom of your screen that says raise hand, if you can see that.
There's a bar at the bottom.
On the bottom.
Oh, but I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, we just can't see you.
Oh, we don't, yeah.
Okay.
The camera's not on yet, so.
We're hiding for a couple more minutes. I don't think
Yeah.
it'll show us until 6.
Okay.
Join meeting.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys. And after, we'll give a brief introduction, and then Corey will do his presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay. So until then, I'm going to mute you guys. See you in a bit.
Okay.
Okay, and Matt, I'm promoting you to panelist. Okay, great. And can you unmute yourself, Matt? Just so I know you're there.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Super duper. It's 6 o'clock now, but why don't we wait just a couple of more minutes? Let's start at 6:03, if that's okay with everybody. Just give them a couple of minutes, see if we can capture any new attendees.
Sounds great to me. We sent out about 900 notices, so I hope we get at least a couple more.
Yeah. And this is being recorded. And be posted on the project webpage.
So I know that Bruce and Linda Becker, you guys were on the first community presentation, and we've spoken multiple times offline. Richard Elston, were you a part of the first community meeting, or is this the first one that you've joined on the Zoom meeting?
My first one.
Okay, great.
And we have a new arrival. All right. Welcome. Is that your last name or your first name? Bogowski? Am I saying that correctly? And if you could unmute yourself for just a moment.
That's a surname.
Surname. Okay, thank you. Is this your first?
No, it is not.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll give it another minute.
You're welcome, by the way.
Okay, we have another party. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. I will be on mute.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Is this your first time or did you attend the last meeting?
This is my first time in speaking.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting for attending. Okay, it's 6:03, so why don't we go ahead and get started. Corey, I turn it over to you.
All righty, let's see if my video will work now. Start video. And then I will try to share my screen as I have a brief presentation for all of you. Entire screen share. And then are you guys able to see my screen?
No, just yourself.
Oh, technical difficulties. Let's try this again.
I could bring up your presentation if need be.
Let's see here. If you could, that might be great. I'm trying to share my screen and it doesn't appear to be working.
Okay, it'll take me a minute just to bring it up. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Okay, where's my file number? 15:22.
And then I'll just ask you to switch slides, Debbie, when
Okay.
I'm complete with that slide. Thank you very much.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm gonna blow that up. All righty. Let me see if I could get this just in a slideshow. Okay, great. Here we go.
Perfect.
And I'm not able to see with this on if there's more attendees. So yes, I can see. So go ahead. We're good.
All righty. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second community meeting for the proposed residential development project located at 1957 Pruneridge Avenue. I know that a couple of you, or at least a few of you, were attendees at the first community meeting. This meeting comes nearly 9 months since the last community meeting, which was held on November 16th, 2022, and was at the very early stages of the development process. I'm joined this evening by my colleague Matthew Schott, and we just have a brief presentation for all of you, which will be followed by a Q&A period. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I was taking notes.
So just a brief history on SCS Development. SCS Development is a private residential development company headquartered here in Santa Clara. SCS Development Company and parent company Citation Homes have been in the residential development industry for over 50 years and built over 50,000 homes. Its founder, Stephen C. Schott, has long ties to the city of Santa Clara. His father, Ed Schott, was actually the city's first city engineer. Steve himself grew up in Santa Clara and went to Bellarmine College Preparatory and Santa Clara University. As a result of his success in this industry, he has been a major philanthropist to many organizations throughout his life, including large donations to his alma mater, Santa Clara University. SCS Development Company has built many residential projects in the city of Santa Clara. Most recently, the SCS has built the Tuscany Apartments on El Camino Real and 2 townhome development projects known as Catalina 1 and Catalina 2, right around the corner from the City of Santa Clara offices. On those projects, and with all projects, SCS Development prides itself on working with the surrounding community to ensure the developments coincide with what is in the community's best interest. Next slide, please. So we purchased the property from the Episcopal Church in the Diocese of El Camino Real on August 1st, 2022. Throughout this process and since purchasing the property, we've been in constant contact with the church and hope to preserve and restore as much of the building as possible, specifically the stained glass windows within the church. The hope is that we are able to work hand in hand with the Episcopal Church community to preserve and restore as much of the beautiful stained glass as possible so that it can be used at other churches in the area. Next slide, please. From the early stages of planning this development, we had the surrounding community in mind. Typically, especially with a project of this size and location, the highest and best use for redevelopment would be townhomes. However, with our goal of always developing the best possible project for the community, especially in Santa Clara, where we are headquartered just a half-mile away from the project, we knew that approximately 40 to 50 three-story townhomes would have a major impact to the surrounding community, especially those existing residents that live on Woodland Avenue. Therefore, we started from scratch, developing a new single-family home product that will minimize the impacts to the community. Next slide, please. So here is kind of the new stuff since our last community meeting about 9 months ago. Since the first community meeting, the site plan has been revised in coordination with multiple city departments and our engineers, as you can see on this slide. The original site plan, consisting of a loop street with 2 entrances and exits, is shown at the top, and the revised site plan consisting of a single entrance and exit with a hammerhead turnaround and emergency vehicle access is shown at the bottom. One item that I would want to note is that the unit count is still the exact same. We still have 22 single family homes, 19 of which are market rate, and then there will be 3 affordable housing units that will be sold in accordance with the City of Santa Clara affordable housing guidelines. So the reason and the technical reasons for why we changed this site plan was regarding driveway widths and approaches, but most importantly, in my opinion, eliminating the western entrance and exits closest to Crestview Drive creates the safest intersection. As vehicles turning onto Pruneridge, whether that be left or right from Crestview, will not need to factor in cars exiting from the development at a close proximity. Additionally, from a visual perspective on Pruneridge, it is much more aesthetically pleasing as the hammerhead creates an additional breakup of the buildings. As shown on the original site plan, there are two groupings of 5 houses with the bioretention in the middle. Now, with the revision, there's a grouping of 5 houses with the bioretention, followed by 3 houses, and then there's an emergency vehicle access where the hammerhead turnaround is, which will be landscaped, and then 2 more houses, making the development as a whole more visually attractive and unique. Lastly, for the development itself, it creates more of a sense of community as it's a more private roadway configuration. Next slide, please. So on the next couple of slides, I'll be showing architectural renderings of the development. Shown here are the elevations of the buildings along Pruneridge. Over the past year, we've been working diligently with the planning department and our architects to create a far superior product to where we first began. Changes include, but are not limited to, revisions on the roof lines. Each unit, we created more variance in the roof lines, so the individual unit reads more uniquely than kind of a cookie cutter master built development. We introduced a different color scheme. The first and second iteration was much darker. There was a lot of blacks and grays with an offset of some lighter grays and some whites. As you can see, we've introduced a different color palette that's much lighter with some blues and some grays and whites, and even some kind of some tan colors that tie into the redwood fences along the frontage. We've introduced a myriad of materials. We've had 2 different types of stone on varied units. There is stucco, there's horizontal siding, vertical siding, and then metal shed roofs over the patios. We've create more even window placements. The first couple iterations, the window placements weren't exactly aligned on a single plane, whether that be the first story or the second story. There were some offsets by a couple inches or feet, whether that be to the location of kind of the stairwell or just our architects feeling that it kind of created a uniqueness. But to tie in more to the modern farmhouse, we aligned all of the first story windows and second story windows, as well as vertically where possible, to be aligned on kind of a singular plane for a more even visual read. We've introduced along Pruneridge only, which I'll get to a little bit later in my presentation, covered patios. So it's an extension of the living room off the front door for residents that live on Pruneridge, so they can kind of have a little bit more space on this small lot single family home of a private kind of courtyard, or not, excuse me, courtyard, a front yard, which I will show on the next slide. And then we've additionally added 2 balconies just on 2 of the units, just for a little bit more of a visually aesthetic breakup of the elevations. So these changes resulted in a larger variance between individual units while still maintaining a consistent modern farmhouse theme for the development. I must specifically thank our planner who's on the meeting tonight, Debbie Fernandez, for her positive, constructive criticism throughout this entire process, because as a result of her comments, from where we begin to where we are now, we were able to create the most visually attractive product for this development and for the surrounding community. Next slide, please. So again, this slide shows the elevations along the Pruneridge frontage, just from a different perspective and including in a couple additional units. As you can see, while maintaining a consistent theme throughout, each unit has its own individual characteristics to make each unit unique through varied changes in roof lines, colors, materials, window placements, covered and uncovered patios and balconies, as I touched on the previous slide. Next slide, please. Again, so as I touched on this previously, along the Pruneridge frontage only, we have included a private fenced-in front yard. This allows future residents additional space outside their front door for gathering, activities, and relaxing. As noted early on, we have developed this project with the community in mind from the beginning. Therefore, we have only included these private fenced-in front yards along the Pruneridge frontage. The reasoning is that we did not want to provide future residents with a gathering space along the back of the property line of the homes on Woodland Avenue to keep that area as quiet and serene as possible. Next slide, please. So this shows the interior centralized private courtyard, which each unit has. We created this brand new product again with the community in mind. Rather than having a typical backyard, we have created this centralized courtyard concept to provide residents private outdoor space while containing any noise to the interior of the units. As shown here, our architects have shown the concept of an outdoor living and dining room in this space. However, the residents can utilize this space however they want, whether that be an extension of the living room space as shown, or a more traditional yard with a lawn area, plants, hot tub, etc. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the architectural renderings along the backside of the property near Woodland Avenue. As you can see, these do not contain private fenced-in front yards, nor covered patios or balconies. This was intentionally designed to not include those enhancements to limit any gatherings and noise within the homes and the private courtyards, keeping in mind the existing residents that live along the shared property line on Woodland Avenue. Next slide, please, Debbie. And then lastly, this perspective was shown. It shows the minimized visual impact to the neighbors on Woodland with the reduced roof heights and planting over 30 new trees along the shared property line. Next slide, please, Debbie. And so now we get into the development timeline. So this is just a general approximation of when we expect to hit these milestones. So we expect to have the completion of the environmental review process, ideally late 2023. Most likely it'll slide into January of 2024. Following that, we'll have to go to the Planning Commission and City Council, which we expect to happen in early 2024, followed by the Architecture Review Board meeting. Once we have all of the approvals, we anticipate, in coordination with the church, removal and preservation of church materials, i.e. stained glass and anything else that can be saved, whether that's some of the redwood, etc., early to mid 2024. And then a demo of the remaining structures in grading early to mid 2024. Horizontal construction, which consists of the joint trench, putting in all of your utilities, cutting the streets, all of this stuff that's kind of at grade or below ground, beginning mid 2024. And then lastly, vertical construction, which is when you'll actually see sticks and structures start going up in the air late 2024. And then just one last slide. So that's the conclusion of our presentation. I thank you all for your time this evening. I would like to use the rest of this evening's meeting time to hear from you, any questions or comments that the community may have, because that's truly the reason why we're here this evening. And I apologize, since I sent this presentation to Debbie this afternoon or this morning, Steve Schott had something pop up where he was unable to make the call. So Matthew and myself are available to answer any questions that you may have regarding this project. And Debbie Fernandez, our amazing planner, is available to answer any questions that you may have and can speak on behalf of the city. Thank you very much, and I look forward to any questions or comments that you guys may have.
Whoops. Now I'm trying to get back to where I can see everybody. Okay. I see Richard Elston has his hand up, so he has a questions or comments. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, so the one entranceway seems like a bottleneck. I mean, it's right next to that cedar tree center, and if people want to turn left out of that, I mean, it's going to be a mess. I mean, uh, I can foresee a lot of accidents. Maybe I hate to see another stoplight get put up, but so why can't the entranceway be in the middle there, and then branch out both sides?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Richard. So, I know 22 units seems like, a fairly large development, but the amount of traffic that is generated, and I'm not an expert on this, but there are experts that are doing our environmental document, which will be circulated to the public probably within the next couple of months. They have looked into this, and it's surprising, the amount of AM and PM peak hour trips is what they call it, which are generated from, a development of this size. And there's virtually, no impact. So while I do agree, it would be ideal to have it in the center. It just wasn't possible with, the way the site flows. Our engineers had to put the bioretention in the middle. Nowadays, with California C3 requirements, you have to treat all water on site. And as you know, water flows, with gravity. So everything kind of has to surface flow, and it goes to the middle of the site. And so the location, while I do, understand your comment that it's a little bit close to that, the center right there, which I love, Yuki Sushi is phenomenal. There isn't much of an impact generated by these 22 homes, and the traffic consultants, as well as the departments that all review it at the city of Santa Clara, did not have any concerns with that.
I don't believe you, but so where do visitors park?
So we have 3 covered. It's actually fairly unique. Each single family home has 3 covered parking spaces in the garage, and then 3 additional parking spaces in the driveway. So it's 6 per unit, which is well above what is required for the city of Santa Clara. I think they are only required for a single family home like this, maybe 3 or 4. So visitors would be parking in the owner's driveway.
Okay, so I don't know if you've been there during the week, but there's that autism center, PACE, that's right across the street, and I noticed there. I mean, look, a lot of people that go to PACE, they park along that edge of Pruneridge. So, it seems like it's going to be pretty busy there.
Yeah, Richard, you are absolutely correct. There are a lot of people that do park there, kind of on drop-off and pickup times. Our office is right next to the Pruneridge Golf Course. We're just a half mile away from this development, so we're very familiar with the traffic and parking at this site. We are not taking any credit, or the city is not granting us any credit for parking along Pruneridge. We are meeting all of the requirements on site.
Did you have any other questions or comments, Richard?
No, I think you're really packing them in there. But that's the way it is nowadays.
Yeah, no, Richard, I absolutely understand your comment, and that's why we provided 6 parking spaces per unit. So at normal times, if you have a couple of visitors, you should be able to handle that. But just like anyone that owns a home in this area or anywhere, if someone throws a party and there's 15 or 20 cars, they're going to park where they need to park, just like if they were coming to your house or anywhere else, and that certainly does happen. But on a normal daily basis, we are more than well covered for the amount of parking spaces that are required for this development. So I do understand your comment, and it's an extremely valid point that you have brought up.
So the units that are all in a row, do they share a common wall?
I apologize. What was your question?
No, do the units that are rowed together, do they share a common wall like a townhouse?
No, so there is a 3 foot. I apologize. I don't have the plans for me. I think it's a 3 foot setback on the side yards, So there's actually, each unit has 3 feet, so it's about a 6-foot gap between the sides of the unit. So they are not sharing walls.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Richard, if that's your last question. Okay. Okay, let's go to Mr. Bogotsky. You can go ahead and speak.
So, yeah, thanks.
Oh,
Oh.
you're on mute.
So am I unmuted now? Because you muted me.
Yes, we can hear you.
I am not. Okay. So, yeah, there was a.
You just need to speak a little bit louder.
I will. Okay. You're minimizing the impact of the ADUs. You got 6 parking, 3.
So yeah, so it's a great point you bring up. We actually no longer have
ADUs.
any.
You don't mention ADUs. Whoa. Excuse me. Oh, hello.
I'm sorry, sir.
Let me finish, please. So, if I may, I mean, so with what's gone on with that space? So, thanks.
Okay, so to address your question, we do no longer have ADUs as a part of this application. It came up as a part of the environmental process that it was not allowed under state law, because even though the general plan is planned for residential, the zoning is still public, quasi-public from the church, and all of the California state law ordinances that speak to ADUs are based on the zoning. So that would have put our project at 40 plus units with the incorporation of the ADUs as kind of a technicality. So we no longer have ADUs. It's just an additional living room and a bedroom. So now instead of 22 units with 19 ADUs, it's just 22 units that are all 4 or 5 bedroom homes.
So, and so the extra parking spaces are extra parking spaces, or there's a 3-car garage, or?
Correct. There's a 3-car garage for each unit and 3 additional parking
Okay.
spaces in the driveways.
That's great.
So
Thank
6
you.
total. Yes.
Thank you. That was it. That could put that in your presentation. That's a key point.
I apologize. I should have, since that did change since the last meeting, I apologize. I should have included that the ADUs are no longer incorporated. But thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. And I apologize if I cut you off at the beginning. It was a little difficult to hear you. I wasn't sure if you were still talking or not. Thank you.
Yeah, I beats me. Don't know. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. And Harati, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Just I probably missed that part, but what is the square footage of these places? They are 4 to 5 bedroom apartments, but what square foot size roughly?
That's a great question. Can we do you have any other questions? Will I look that up? If not, we could pan over to Bruce and Linda.
No,
and
that was my question. So that's all from me.
Okay, just hang on 2 minutes. I will look that up, and we can go to Bruce and Linda as I'm kind of pulling that up.
And you might want to clarify that these are for sale units and not.
Correct. Yes, they are ownership units. They are not rental units. They are for sale single family homes.
Okay. All right. So we'll quickly go to Bruce and Linda. We'll come back to Mr. Hardy and go to Bruce and Linda. Do you want to take yourselves off mute?
Okay, we did.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, sorry. Our interest is in the construction of the fence between the development and the residents of Woodland. We're interested in the materials, the design, the height, the timeline, for creating that fence. And the planting of the trees also that would be next to that fence. And that's a lot of questions at one time, but that's the focus at this point for us.
All right, I think I got them all, Linda. Thank you very much for your question. And I seem to recall, and maybe it was somebody else, but I had spoken to a resident on Woodland, and I know we've spoken a couple times regarding the fence. So it's just, going to be your standard, redwood fence, kind of in line with the Santa Clara requirements. I think it's a standard 6-foot redwood fence with, horizontal kind of panels. And I think we spoke to you, maybe it was someone else. I apologize. But considering there's only 8 residents along the back of this, if you have something in particular that you would like to see along the back of your site, we can discuss online, and I think that we'd be happy to kind of work a solution that kind of works for both parties. Whether that be if you wanted it to be 7 feet or what have you, I'm sure we could work something out that's in your guys' interest, being that you guys are directly impacted by the development being right behind it. But the plan right now is it would just be your typical horizontal panel redwood fence, approximately 6 to 7 feet in height. And then in regards to the planting, the trees are typically planted once the construction is fairly near completion so that you don't disturb the roots and therefore the health of the trees. But I will say along the back property line, the trees that we are getting are already fairly mature. So there will be an instant softening and kind of visual breakup instantly once the trees are planted.
Okay, so when does the construction of the fence happen in relation to the construction of the units?
That's a great question. And, I could try to make up an answer, but I want to give you the correct answer. So let me ask my construction department tomorrow, and I can send you an email. I have your contact information. My guess is that it would be after demo and the horizontal improvements, so the grading, kind of putting the streets in and stuff, but prior to the vertical construction. But I will confirm that with our construction department tomorrow morning. Matt, if you could remind me, that would be great as well. I'll write it down, and I can send you an email when that fence is typically installed at what point.
Okay, thank you. Bruce has a question.
The fence might help abate noise and dust from construction.
I apologize, Bruce. Your question, dust.
I said a fence might help abate the noise and dust from the construction activities.
Absolutely, yes. And again, as part of our environmental impact report, there are all of these technical studies, as I spoke to earlier, traffic, but also noise and kind of mitigation of dust and all of that stuff. So it generates all of these mitigation measures to minimize the impacts to anyone without not within this development. So we do have to follow legally all of those mitigation measures while constructing this. But you are true that there is still going to be noise and probably dust, but the goal is to minimize that as much as possible.
Okay. There was a question, someone who couldn't come to the meeting, who raised it to me through an email. Fan, who was interested in the December sunlight of the environmental evaluation. He said that only the summer and September evaluations were there, but nothing for the deep winter of December.
Was this part of the environmental report?
It was.
Okay, so there is kind of a black wall between the environmental impact report and the developer. So I'm unable to share any of that information on what's on that right now. I don't believe that Debbie is as well, because the document hasn't been finalized. Debbie, you can jump in if
That's-
I'm wrong, but I
Yeah,
will
no,
say
that's
that,
correct.
but what I will say, Bruce and Linda, and what you should pass along is that once the document is finalized, which should probably be within, I would anticipate in the next 2 months, the full document is sent out for public review and comment for about a 45-day period, or not about, it's exactly a 45-day period. So she will be able to review that document and provide comments to the city and the city's environmental consultants.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And then Hararti, I hope I said that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. So back to the square footages, they're approximately between 2,600 square feet and 2,900 square feet, all 4 to 5 bedroom units with 3-car garages.
Did you have any other questions, Harati?
Yeah, I noticed the trees are gone from the dental side.
The trees along the Pruneridge frontage?
No, the ones behind the dental office.
To the
Is
west.
that-
These.
Oh. No, they're still there.
This is no on the new plan.
These are still there.
I'm talking about these.
Oh, okay.
As you look at it from Pruneridge on the left side,
On the revised plan,
Okay, I'm
it
looking.
doesn't show any trees on the left-hand side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, so that goes to having the a 3-foot setback. But let me, I can talk to our landscape architect. I believe, I don't think that there should be any difference between at least on the top left. I don't think that anything has changed there, so I think they should be able to squeeze some trees in. But I can take a look into that for you guys.
Okay,
That's a good point that you brought up. Thank you.
okay, that's all
Yeah.
we have, I think.
I'm unsure if maybe shifting the street minimized that side, but I don't think that it did. So I can look at that.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you very much, Bruce and Linda. I appreciate your time.
Okay, Richard, it has his hand up, so he may have some additional questions or comments.
Yeah, on the left-hand side, like you said, by the doctors, the dentist apartments or the dentist offices, it looks like you had the street blocked off there. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's a dead end, and then there's a hammerhead turnaround. So kind of if trash comes in there to pick it up on, I'm not sure which day their trash day would be, but it picks it up from the end houses, backs into the hammerhead, and then turns around. However, if there is a fire or an emergency, that is, the hammerhead is a emergency vehicle access as well. So need be, hopefully that they don't need to use it. But they are able to go through there. So it will be, slightly landscaped, with some hardscape, maybe some pavers and grass with some lower vegetation, but it is an emergency vehicle access as well. The hammerhead, not the other way.
Okay.
Alrighty, anything else? Any other questions or comments? Debbie, did I miss anything?
No, you answered all their questions, and I thank you for that. You provided a timeline, which was very helpful as well. And you did indicate that once the environmental is released, which I concur, and probably be in the next 2 months, 1 to 2 months, that it will be made available to the public and public agencies for comment and review for a 45-day period. And upon closure of that period, I'll just elaborate, comments received, responses will be prepared for those, and they will be made available for a 10-day review. And at the close of the 10-day review, then the planning commission meeting would be held, and the project would be reviewed by the planning commission in a public notice meeting, and they would make their recommendations to city council at a subsequent noticed public notice meeting. This, you probably should say that, let them know that being that these are for sale, there is a tentative track map that is also associated with the application.
Correct. And just so all of you know what the tentative tract map is, it's essentially a tentative map that shows the subdivision of the property from the one lot into the 22 single family home lots, as well as other lots for, you know, buyer retention, etc. And so that also gets approved by the planning commission and city council. And then following the approval of that, we have our engineers create what is called a final map, which is created in substantial conformance with the tentative map, which is then reviewed and approved by the city, and then that is recorded, and that's what legally subdivides and creates those individual lots. So as a part of our application, we have the tentative map, and then also the PD and rezoning application, which is more the pretty pictures, if you will, the landscaping, the architecture, some engineering stuff as well.
Thank you. Richard, did you have additional questions? I see your hand up again.
Yes, so how wide is that street? Center Street?
How wide is the street?
Yeah.
All right, let me see.
I believe it's
here.
26 feet.
So the entrance is 27 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then since it's a private drive, it is 23 feet, 23 feet right away. So curb to curb, 23 feet.
And then on trash day, people have to put their trash out there on the curb or whatever?
Correct. It's a small lot, single family, you know, development, but it in some ways it acts very much like a townhome development, just in regards to kind of the street configuration, you know, the rear loading of the homes, so they all front onto Pruneridge to create a more attractive street scene, etc. Yes, Richard?
I thought I had my hand down, but anyway, so a fire engine can go through there, I guess.
Yes, absolutely, and that's looked at. These plans have been reviewed and approved by the fire department, and you know, fire trucks can make it through there, trash trucks, you know, anything probably besides maybe an 18-wheeler, which has no business going in there, can drive through this.
All right, then. I see that you have no more questions or comments. So with that, we'll conclude the meeting, and I'd like to say thank you again for participating. And you have Corey's contact information should you wish to discuss the project further. If you have any questions related to city processes, you can, or comments you'd like to send to me, you have my information as well. That is provided on the notice that you received that was mailed out for this community meeting. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, everyone, for all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes.